stop.
Yes.
Hold on. Can someone get the guy on heroin out?
That is good. That is good.
While we've got a minute, if everyone could just come to the front and show us your vaccine certificates, that'd be great.
Mate, when I said take drugs and get drunk before the gig, I didn't mean get on the smack before the gig.
He said take drugs.
Wrong gig, mate.
Take drugs, not take drums. Fucking hell.
Welcome to the program. I'm your host, Steve Mitchell, back for another show here in the realm. And joining me, as always, over in Washington, D.C. is Skull. How are you doing, mate?
Oh, hey. I was just checking out my Freak Brothers magazine here. Well, I'd like to say greetings, ladies and gentlemen in Cyberland. As you know, this is Skull broadcasting from the past, present, and future in the Chamber of the Cosmos. Here with my good friend Steve Oz in Ozland. I'm an off again, on again DC bomb rock band Black Manta, and I've been in the scene for over 30 years. I know people from all over the scene, and as usual, really excited to be here. And we have very honored and have a very special guest here with us today, Randy Holden, who's a former member of Blue Cheer and Population 2, and I would have to say is one of the original volume freaks out there, and one of the original godfathers of Doom, along with bands like Black Sabbath and Pentagram. And it's really great to have you here. We've been checking out your new music, Population 3. Would you like to chat about that a little bit?
If you like.
Yeah, sure.
Did you like it?
Well, it was heavy as hell and psychedelic as shit. So I would say that it was pretty awesome, pretty amazing stuff.
Good.
You want to talk about how it came together and how it all came about? Maybe the gear you used on it, that kind of stuff.
Sure. Actually, it was this guy Randy Pratt's idea. He said he had a great idea that I should do a follow-up album to Population 2 as if Population 2 had been released. And then this would have been the next album afterwards. Just a little bit on the late side. But
right.
Yeah, that's what it was about. So he put together a few tracks with bass and drums and I think a keyboard and sent them to me to see what I felt about them. And I liked some of what he did, so I used some of them and went back to New York and we recorded this stuff. And it worked out pretty decent. I was pretty happy with it. Actually, it was done about 10 years ago, but I had a problem with Pro Tools. I was upgrading my system and I had to go from Pro Tools 10 to Pro Tools 12. And they assured me 10 was compatible with 12. So I spent about 10 grand doing the upgrade. Turned out that it was not compatible at all.
Oh, wow.
I was really pissed off with Pro Tools for telling me that BS and it just not being true. And that meant I'd already had the album mixed. And so the plugins that I used to do that were no longer available and you couldn't use the old ones. So it really miffed me because the album was almost done and I couldn't finish it unless I remixed everything all over again and bought all new plugins. And I wasn't about to do that. What they did is to keep their revenue stream going, since they couldn't really upgrade any further, they reached their limit. They decided they were going to sell plugins. So they offer you about 1,000 different plugins, and they're all $100 to $800 each.
Wow.
And that's how they figured they would make money. But to go and screw everybody who had like decades of work on the older systems, that was really an act of supreme unkindness.
Sure.
So I got so angry with them, I just turned off my studio and I didn't open it again for 10 years.
Oh, shit. Well,
I was just
I'm glad you did, man. I'm glad you did. The
get,
population. It sounds great.
I get angry, I just stop.
Sure.
Just the way it goes. Anyhow, I forget what led me to do it, but I opened up the studio one day and I thought I'd just take a listen to it. And I was surprised, even without all the mix downs and everything that had been done, it was really good, I thought.
Yeah.
So I talked to Daniel at Writing Easy Records. He's the guy that released it and also released Population 2. And
right.
he said he'd like to release it. So I told Randy Pratt what I was going to do, and he got all jazzed out about it, and he wanted to give it to his engineer to do some remastering or remixing, and he did that. And then Elliot Kislev, he did the remastering along with another fellow, Smokey Taylor, from a band called Sorcery, and it turned out pretty good. I was happy with what they did. So there it is.
It's heavy. It's great. You can definitely hear there's still 1 foot of the whole population too. There's like you can hear the magic of the population 2 in it. There's kind of like that evolution of the population 2 into population 3. It's there's great long jams, really heavy. Although one song that really jumped out at me was the last song, The Outside Looking In, is acoustic, and I was wondering if it was kind of more of like an introspective, maybe kind of more of like a personal thing.
No, it's just a song that I wrote, and I liked it.
But it has like that acoustic vibe, so I wasn't sure if it did.
Yeah, it's just a 12 string in my voice. That's all it is.
I got you. You were just wanted to try something a little different.
Oh, I do that all the time. I have so many things that are so different from each other. Some of them you wouldn't even believe it.
Sure,
but that's
sure.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it'll be it's out now, so I mean, I would tell anyone that's real like into, Blue Cheer, Randy Holden, Population 2, definitely go check it out. It's really amazing. But I would like to we'll come back to that a little bit later, but I would like to go back a little bit with the beginning of your musical history, because you're a Cali kid. You grew up in California. That's where you are now, right? In California?
I'm in California, but I didn't grow up here.
Oh, okay. So where are you from?
Well, I came out here from Baltimore, where I lived for about 6 years.
Oh, okay.
But then before that, I lived all over the place. My mom used to move all over.
Gotcha.
My earliest
I'm right outside of Baltimore here.
Is that right?
Yeah, here outside of DC.
We need to have a sympathy party then, don't we?
Yeah, sure. But I wanted to ask you, like before we get started, where the whole Guitar God moniker came from, how that whole thing started.
I had no idea. I think Randy Pratt had something to do with that. In the 80s or 90s or something, he made some T-shirts that said Randy Holden Guitar God, and they all sold out, and it just kind of stuck.
Okay, I got you. Well,
what's anyhow? I have no clue what it even means.
All right. Well, I wanted to go back to the very beginning, and to me, I'm sure maybe you probably were any bands earlier than that, but for me, the earliest is The Other Half. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, if you can see this on the back here, it says, when The Other Half records, all their amplifiers are turned to maximum volume. And this album came out in what, 67, 68? So you were always interested in volume even back then, pre Blue Cheer.
And long before that, even. I always played with considerable volume. It was just more exciting.
Sure.
Pretty simple.
Sure. I got it. And one of my favorite tracks on it, this is like, this has a couple of extra tracks on it. So it has like the single on here, Mr. Pharmacist, which is one of my favorite tracks. So I really love that. And I was just wondering if you had any stories, anything that you remembered about recording this or the Other Half years you wanted to talk about real quick.
Well, it was I was basically only 1 foot in the band while we were doing the recording. I was not really happy for whatever reasons. And the only thing I remember about recording it was there were some dinky little studios and they couldn't get any sound worth beans. And it was not a lot of fun. That's my memory of it. But strangely, a lot of people seem to like the album. So, I guess that's for itself. But I had another band before that, the Sons of Adam. They were a very great band. Nobody could follow us on stage. And a label called High Moon just put out a double album for the Sons of Adam. The entire history of the recorded history, the story, it's got a booklet, and they did a real bang up job. It's the best thing I ever seen done on the Sons of Adam.
Sons of
And
Adam,
that just now came out at the same time as Population 2. I mean, 3, 4, 5. Which one is it? I don't remember. 3.
But that's awesome. Sons of Adam. I'm going to check that out. So were you guys like, you dropped a couple of singles back in the day or what?
Yeah, we did all kinds of different stuff. And we started out doing surf music as a Fender 4, as I recall, because we used all Fender gear, and I just figured if I ever needed Fendi gear, if I called just the Fender 4, they'd pretty much be very cooperative with the idea.
Right.
Purely commercial interest. And Kim Fowley saw us one day and he said, "You know what? You guys are great, but your name is shit." I couldn't agree with him more. And he said, "I got a name for you. Try this out, Sons of Adam." We all said, "That's it. Good." That's what we became from there on.
That's a great name. I love it. And I want to check out that compilation. That's super cool. I'm glad you told the audience about that. Did you play live with the other half at all? Or were you just only in the band
we did
short?
quite a few live gigs.
Did you play with anybody of note, like the Doors or any of the West Coast psych bands?
I played with almost everybody back in that day. I used to jam with Steve Miller at the Avalon Ballroom in San Francisco. That was a lot of fun.
Sure. And that was the other half?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess we will fast forward a little bit to a little known band called Blue Cheer. I just wanted to throw these on the screen real quick. Vince Abyss Eruptum, obviously, Outside Inside. But you ended up on this album here, New Improved Blue Cheer. Now, this album is considered, I think, is one of the strangest albums in the history of music because of obviously I was too young for all this stuff when it first came out, but just someone that got into it, the first 2 albums are really heavy. And then, arguably they're considered one of the first proto-metal bands, etc. And you're a part of that history. But when you listen to it, the first album is they kind of went hippie. They changed their entire sound on the first side, and the second side is like, mammoth volume, super heavy, dirgy, proto-doom, if you will. So how did that whole thing come about? How did you get involved with Blue Cheer?
That was just a whole odd set of circumstances. I was looking for a drummer at the time. I was going to make a new band, and I saw Paul Whaley play with Blue Cheer at the Shrine Auditorium, and Jeff Beck was on the bill. I thought Jeff Beck should have been top bill because he had a far bigger name. And Jeff Beck was just introducing, he did the debut of the Truth album. And
Right.
his band was really tight and really good, but he wasn't that crazy, wild and fiery guy he was with the Yardbirds. So from that aspect, I was a little bit disappointed. In any case, and I didn't like Blue Cheer at all.
Okay.
I used to play with him in San Francisco.
This one's for Geelong.
Right. So anyway, Blue Cheer came on there to do their set that evening, and they opened up with a song called "Just a Little Bit." And Paul just slamming those drums. He was absolutely fabulous. And I just went, "Whoa, there's my drummer."
Right.
So I went backstage and talked to him, and I said, "Look, you guys your Blue Cheer thing is going to be over soon. It's a one-hit wonder. I'm starting a new band. I want you to be the drummer." And Paul went to Jerry. He said, "Randy wants me to play with him." And so Jerry set it up that we would rehearse the next day at the shrine using all the gear that was on stage. And I would bring my bass player, who was Mike Port from the Sons of Adam. And then we all started playing, and the most bizarre thing I'd ever seen happen, Mike and Paul could not play together at all. I'd never seen two people that could play with just couldn't play with each other. So it kind of blew me away because Mike was a great bass player. I don't know what the deal was. I think by that time Mike had taken too many LSD trips. He did it a lot, and it really messed him up. And I think that's what was behind it. Anyway, after we played a while, Paul and Jerry came on. They said, "Look, here's the deal. Paul can't play with Mike," which I totally understood. "So instead of Paul going with you, we want you to come with us." I went, "Oh, okay. I hadn't thought of that at all." And Mike told me he had an offer to go with Steppenwolf. So I said, okay, fine. I just got an offer to go with Blue Cheer, so I guess I'll take him up on it. And that's how it started. Very quickly.
So how did the two different sides thing come about? Like the hippie side and the heavy side.
Yeah. Dickie wanted to go softer and play quieter, and I'm going, you're nuts, man. That's not what Blue Cheer does.
Right.
What's wrong with you? And I had a big row with the manager because all the money disappeared down the heroin hole. And my tour earnings were supposed to be given to me at the end of the tour, which should have been about 16 grand in those days, which was a lot of money back then.
Mm.
And instead, he gave me an envelope that only had $500 in it. Okay, I see what's going on here. I went to the studio and unplugged my amp and left, and that was the end of that. I didn't even think they were going to use what I recorded, to tell you the truth. I was just really upset with everything that had happened, because we were a great band. On stage, we killed it no matter where we went. But the management was just upside down and wrong, and he had everybody else in the band hooked on heroin too. Nobody could play half the time. And I couldn't deal with that. It's not where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. I always wanted to get louder and bigger. I gotta laugh. That's what I do.
So how long were you in Blue Cheer then? You toured, right?
Yeah, it was. I guess it was close to around a year.
Mm.
We toured across the States and then went over to Europe for a few months and then back across the States again. And we were supposed to go record an album. We went in and started doing this album. And I left in the middle of it because of the theft and debauchery, which showed me the writing was on the wall. It was not going to go anywhere with all that crap going on. We weren't the Rolling Stones where we had millions of dollars. Anybody could go in and dry up and rehab and all that kind of stuff. And nobody was even interested in doing that. They just liked getting high rather than playing music. And for me, music, I was not into the heroin thing at all.
Right.
I just thought it was stupid.
Yeah, they weren't even. It wasn't like they were smoking weed. They were doing heroin. That's so that's pretty serious stuff.
It is. It doesn't get any worse than that. Everybody I've known that's done that stuff, it's just wrecked them. I don't think I've ever known anybody that came out of it. It's amazing to me that the Rolling Stones came out of it, because from what I understood, they got in it pretty heavy. But I guess they had the money to, and brains to get smart enough to leave it behind.
Right. Well,
so anyhow, I didn't have any idea what they were doing with the music. I didn't know didn't have a clue they were going to use my music. I thought when I left. That was that. It's over. And then it shows up on Billboard charts at number 84. And the manager came around and gave me some kind of an award plaque for that. And then when I heard the album, I heard all of this really flower power, weird kind of not Blue Cheer music at all. And so I thought, man, this is going to confuse the hell out of everybody. And it did.
Yeah.
Nobody understood what the hell happened. And the management kept my photo off of the album, or he left off everything he possibly could and tried to stop me from even going further. When I had Population 2 recorded, he brought the owner of Chess over to the record label to try to tell everybody that I was not permitted to use those songs again because I was under contract to them. The thing was, though, I was not under contract to them. I never saw a contract. I kept asking, we're going to get a contract going here for something? And Jerry, the manager, kept saying, yeah, it's coming. but nothing ever came. And so I told him right there that, there's no contract. I can do whatever I want with my music.
Sure.
And they had their lawyer with them. He drew up a letter that said that I wasn't under contract, blah, blah, blah. So that I was free to use my music. But that just showed the extent where Jerry he hated my guts. And that was because I was the only one that wasn't stoned out of my brains and would want to know about the finances and what we were going to do in the future and how we're going to, but nobody was present of mine.
Was that the manager? Jerry was the manager of Blue Cheer?
Yeah, Jerry Russell.
Oh, okay.
Were you exposed to those types of issues before Blue Cheer? Either with the bands that you were in? Were you exposed to those kinds of issues in the industry, either directly or indirectly?
Well, eventually drugs just permeated everything. But I didn't know anyone that was into heroin. Some people got into methamphetamines and it killed them. And or they committed suicide, one of the two, one way or another. But LSD became very popular. And of course, pot, marijuana. But I didn't know anyone that did heroin. That was like a no-no. You don't do that because you might as well throw your life away if you're going to choose to do that. Because it's powerful stuff.
So it was simply the drugs that led to the bad management, do you think?
Drugs and burning through the money and not accounting for it.
Well, so when you were in Blue Cheer, it was still a power trio, right? It was just the three of you guys.
Yeah.
And then until that album came out.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, is there any unreleased material from that session that could be released one day, possibly?
I don't believe so. Nothing I recall.
Okay, so side B is all you're gonna get from New Improved, huh?
Yeah, that's it.
Uh,
The manager even came to me one day and asked, what are we going to call this album? I said, you're asking me? All I could think of was every time I heard the phrase Blue Cheer, I used to think of laundry detergent. So I said, I call it New Improved. And he did. I was joking.
That's hilarious. I always thought the Blue Cheer was the acid. Was the Blue Cheer was an acid or something like that, or a type of that.
But
Yeah.
hey, I was raised in the 50s, and so laundry soap was already programmed into my head.
Sure,
You know?
I get that. That's hilarious. I mean, it does have. I think what's on the front here. There's a couple of. I don't know. Is that a bowl on the front of this album? Like
Where?
On the front here with the shield.
Well, those are at the. That thing is what they use as a device to examine a woman's female organs.
I got you. Okay. Well,
You
now
never
we
saw
know.
one, bro?
Now
Okay,
we know.
well, I'm sorry to tell you about the birds and the bees there.
I do want
And
to
the
tell
bottom
you.
was-
I want to show you.
Vietnam.
I
So-
wanted to show you real quick that I don't know if you saw this or not. A couple years ago, this thing was called Blue Cheer the 67 Demos. I don't know if you heard about this. It came out. It came with a poster, and when you open the poster, there's someone on it, a mysterious stranger on this poster that you might recognize.
Huh. Yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah, it's Lee Stevens. He's right
No,
here.
Not hardly.
That's Lee Stevens. See?
No, that's used truly.
I know. When I saw this, I couldn't believe it. I was like, the poster is fucking cool as shit. But they obviously they screwed up somewhere along the way. I thought you'd get a laugh out of that. But
Jerry never wanted to put my image before the public. He because Lee and I looked alike from a distance. Both tall, thin, long black hair, which nobody had back then. And so nobody knew who I was. They didn't know there was a change in the band. Jerry didn't want them to know. So that's the way that went.
Well, did you ever meet Lee? Were you friends with him?
Yeah, I met Lee.
Okay.
He's a pretty nice guy, like Lee. I didn't know what.
We actually tried to reach out to him, and we can't. He's he's off the grid, if you will. He wasn't interested in doing any interviews. I guess he's a bit of a recluse now.
I have no idea. I know he's got a cool dog. He's got a border collie. Those are really great dogs. So that tells you, good guy.
Right. All right. Well, I want to fast forward a little bit further. Obviously, we were talking about Population 3, but
just before we fast forward, because Skull asked a question about unreleased material, is that at least online you've been credited with an unreleased recording for, I think it was Lucifer. Were there any other unreleased albums or recordings during that era?
I'll clear that confusion up real quick. I wasn't particularly, it didn't make a lot of sense to me that it should be Randy Holden, Population 2. Where the hell's the other guy? But Chris was more or less just a backup musician. He didn't do anything besides that. But I didn't quite care for the name. I was trying to think of something else we could go under. And one night Chris had a dictionary in his hands, and he was walking around in the hallway of this house we lived in, and there was nothing but candlelight in the house. I don't think we could afford electricity at the time. Anyway, he said, "Hey, how about this for a name for the band? Lucifer." I looked at it and went, "Huh. Well, I'm not sure. It's interesting, but I don't know." So I just left it. A month later, we were in the same exact place. He had the dictionary in his hand again, the same exact environment. It was like a replay. And he said the same thing. He said, "Hey, how about this for a band name?" And he points to Lucifer in the dictionary. Same as before. I said, "Man, do you remember you just asked me that a month ago?" He had no memory of it. I thought, well, that's bizarre. It came up twice. And under the same circumstances, there were a lot of this mystical, weird things going on with the number 2 in that band. We were both born on the same day, July 2nd. There was 2 of us in the band. We were 2 years apart in age. Just weird coincidental things. And then everything would happen in twos, no matter what it was. And so I figured, okay, let's do that. So we were just going to rename it. We did new album artwork for it, which turned out really good. And but then the record company failed to fulfill the agreement and release the album. So nothing ever. I went bankrupt. I didn't have 2 cents to rub together, and it was a real traumatic experience for me because I was really preparing to go to great live performances. We rehearsed for a year in an opera house, full stage setup to prepare for it. And for your company to just drop them all the way they did and say nothing about it, that was really emotionally devastating. So I was living with a couple of girls that time who were taking care of me, biblically as well. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do with life at all because apparently my gear was taken by between Chris and the road manager, they divided up my gear. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I found it in a music store for sale in Hollywood, back up in Hollywood. And the guy I said, hey, man, those are my amps. He said, no, they're not. I said, well, I turned them around because I had them all coated. And they painted over the coating. I said, here's the code right here. It's my amps. And he was kind of like jaw dropped, didn't know what to say or do. And I didn't have anywhere to put them, even I would have had them gotten them back. And so I don't even know how they got all scattered out wherever they went, whatever they did with them. But that was pretty devastating. That was like a supreme betrayal. And I had another record label that was really interested in signing me. But Haba Records, the guy that owned that, he refused to let me out of the contract. And I had a couple of high-powered legal types that went to the office to have a meeting with them to release me. And he just refused. So there I was. They wouldn't release my album. They wouldn't release me from the contract. And I had another label I could sign with, but I couldn't do anything. So essentially, they killed my career.
You're talking about Hobbit Records?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't do anything. I had no gear. I had no band. I had no label. I couldn't sign to another label. Even though one wanted to sign me, I couldn't do it. So what would you do?
Move to Hawaii?
There you go. I came up with that idea.
It worked.
It did work. And I eventually got into big game fishing over there because it just it blew me away. I just loved it. It was so nuts. These giant fish they're fighting for their life and they're trying to kill you. And they will if they get a chance. I was almost taken out half a dozen times, if once. But it was an emotional equivalent of playing live on stage for me.
Sure.
So that's what I did.
Well, let me ask you about those amps. So you're talking about the same Stun amps that are on the back of the album here. Those are the ones that ended up in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And they had your name on them?
Yep. I had them all coded because when you were setting up that system, you had to have a coding in order to know what went where. So basically, G1 through G8, B1 through B8, which basically guitar and bass. And so they had a particular position they would go into to be wired all together. So that was stenciled on the back of the amps in white. But somebody spray painted black over it, but it was still visible as could be.
Did you guys get to tour at all for that? For Population 2? Or play live?
We did a couple of gigs. We did a show at the HIC, the Hawaiian International Center in Honolulu. And then we played the Crater Festival in 1971. And then I think we did a show up in Davis, California, or something like that.
Was any of those ever recorded? Do you know if those were recorded or not?
No, I'm sure they weren't.
Is there anything on the cutting room floor for Population 2? Any unreleased tracks?
No, I'm afraid. The masters, this fellow Randy Pratt, he was a huge fan. He spent 4 years tracking me down across the globe. He finally found me, but he spent another over 20 years trying to find the masters.
Wow.
Talk to anybody that ever touched them. And the last word we got was they ended up in Universal and got destroyed in the fire.
That fire a couple years back. Wow. Jeez.
Oh, was that ever irresponsible or what?
Yeah.
One outfit having all of that in one place that was not fireproof. You gotta be kidding. And then we call that trust. Oh God. There was so much material destroyed there. Anyhow, that's where the trail ended.
Right.
So,
I mean, the one that I have actually is, I guess, came out in 2005. It's actually signed by you here on the bottom. So I have one of the signed copied ones. So I'm very proud.
yeah.
Yeah.
I did a limited release with Scorpio Records, and that's one of those.
Yeah. Now,
And they were
Chris
supposed to
Lockheed,
be,
was he also in Blue Cheer? Or he was in
no.
CAC, right?
I know. I didn't even know Chris. He just came knocking on my door one day.
Oh.
with me. He said he saw me play with Blue Cheer up in Stockton and heard I left the band. And he wanted to fill the drum spot. So I had no idea why, but he said he played keyboards too. And I blurted out, well, do you do both at the same time? What a nutty idea. And he said, yeah. I said, okay, cool, let's do it.
That's
It was
awesome.
just a real spontaneous event.
So there was all these heavy bands kind of coming out at around the same time. You know, obviously there was bands like Jimmy, you know, The Experience and the Cream that kind of started the whole like movement. I mean,
Before that.
Yeah, were you into Jimmy at all? Did you ever get a chance to see him, or were you influenced by him at all, you think?
I saw him, and I also met him. And I had one of his guitars once upon a time. One of his managers brought me over a guitar of his, said he wanted me to try it out. And it was interesting because it sounded just like him. I thought, isn't that bizarre? So he told me that his tech guy had wired it in a certain way that it would have that sound. And Roy Gallagher.
Roy Gallagher, yeah.
No, not Roy Gallagher. Roy Buchanan.
Oh, Roy Buchanan. Okay.
Originally came up with that idea of rewiring it, and he did it because it would allow him to get feedback at a lower volume, because he played clubs and they were telling him to turn it down. You can't turn it down back. So what he did was he put either a resistor or a capacitor in line between the pickup and the output jack, and it lowered the actual volume coming out of the guitar substantially. So you could hear more of the natural guitar sound, what it sounded like when it was not plugged in. So the amp was responsible for bringing all the distortion and feedback in. So he could crank the hell out of the amp and have this very clean guitar going through that. It sounded really great. I mean, Jimmy got a fabulous sound, no question. That's how it was done.
So did you saw him, what you saw The Experience, or like 67, 68 period?
Let me think. Yes. I saw.
So was it loud?
Oh, wait,
I mean, what was it like?
No, there was one mistake there. Billy Cox was with him. But Mitch,
so it was after The Experience.
Yeah.
That's still cool, though.
He was very depressed at the time. It was not in a good way. But anyway, that's all history.
He's one of the original Sonic Wizards, man. He's one of the masters.
Well, he has some great ideas what to do with his gear. And that gave him that unique sound, and he knew how to use it, and he knew how to play. And there's no about it. The guy was he was a monster. He was beautiful. And it was a great time.
Yeah.
He passed away.
During that time, which are the bands or artists that influenced you in terms of the guitar sound?
Oh, then? Nobody.
I was going to say, because you predate Black Sabbath, and Black Sabbath was going for this wall of sound, this mammoth sound. So when you heard Sabbath come out, did you get into Sabbath? Were you like, oh, they're doing the same kind of thing that I'm doing?
No, I didn't get into them at all. But I heard a song that came out, and it was like kind of spooky, and I thought, that's really weird. And they're doing stuff kind of like I'm doing. And I was doing what I did back in that day. That was so far over the top. Nobody was doing anything anywhere close to that. And as a matter of fact, there was a political move on where Nixon got involved in the music business, telling the head honchos of the labels just stop the loud guitars and get acoustic guitars going. So guys, oh yeah, he really did.
Oh shit!
So they got Don McLean out there with "Hey Miss American Pie, the music's dead" and all that bullshit. And I couldn't even believe that. So they were trying to politically, they were trying to shut down what I was doing. This America, remember, we're the most powerful of all.
Right.
So
Right.
reimagining, I mean, the Queen even recognized Ozzy, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
It's not like that here. So
Right.
When we played before an audience, they couldn't figure it out because the tempos were very slow and in a lot of it. So it was more like theater than it was.
Doomy.
It wasn't dance band music.
Yeah, it has a doomy, slower vibe.
Yeah, it just was very different. So you come on with all those amps with that sound and play that, and it was a bit overwhelming. It was so over the top from what anybody else was doing. I wasn't totally sure if it was even going to go, but I thought if we get airplay and we can get on stage, it'll go. I was convinced of that.
Sure.
But couldn't get there when the damn label wouldn't release the album. That was really devastating, to say the least.
Well, you do have a following, people who love your sound and love your music. Obviously, me and Steve are count among those. So, I mean, you left quite an amazing legacy. And I have a proposition for you. Every year outside of DC, we have a Doom Fest out here, and they're always looking for new acts. I know the guy there. I could reach out to him if you're interested in maybe coming to play next year. I could reach out to him. If you could get the band together. My friend Joe Hasselvander actually played drums for Blue Cheer. I'm a friend with him.
I've actually got a great drummer and great bass player, but I haven't put any gigs together because the drummer lives up in Northern California on a farm. So he's very hard to get a hold of.
But I do. Yeah, I know someone. I can put your name out there if you're interested in doing a gig. I can reach out to the promoter from the Doom Fest here in Maryland, and we could stay in touch that way if you're interested.
I'd love to do it. It's just a matter I got to pay everybody.
Sure. Right. And it would be fantastic. You could play some of the old material, some Blue Cheers, some some of Population 3. Some other
I have a show put together that I would do. I'd love to do it, but it's a matter of I don't have any agent or any management, so I'm like a real Lone Ranger kind of guy. And so I need those kind of things really to make it go further. Otherwise, I'd be out there touring.
Yeah, this might just be like a one-off, but I could definitely get the ball rolling, and we could stay in touch offline, and just see where it goes.
Hey, I'd love to do it. Just got to be paid so I can pay all the bills.
Right on.
That's the only thing. Otherwise, the guys would love to do it, I'm sure. When is it, by the way?
It's in October, so it would be next October.
Not this one, the next one.
Yeah, the next one. They already have a full lineup this year.
Okay, what's it called?
It's called the Maryland Doom Fest. My band Black Manta played it a few years back.
Huh.
Yeah.
How many attend?
What's that?
How many people attend?
I don't know about. Steve was there too. What is it about?
Well, it's split over multiple venues now because it's grown quite a bit. So I think it's two.
Yeah.
Last I saw, they had 2 or 3 venues. So there might be 500 at each venue or something like that.
Yeah, 1,000 to 1,500 people, and you're huge. You're a huge influence on the doom scene. I don't know if anyone's ever told you that, along with Black Sabbath and Blue Cheer and other bands. Pentagram as well, but Randy Holden is a massive influence on that whole scene. So You would be welcomed with open arms. It would be very exciting to have you play there, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'd love to do it.
All right. Well, right on. We'll stay in touch offline about that.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I guess we're getting ready to wrap this up. If there's anything that you wanted to say to your fans out there, or
Oh gosh.
last minute thoughts from Randy Holden.
Well, of course, there wouldn't be anything without the fans. Those are the people that make it happen. So yeah, I love fans. The more I get, the more happy I am.
Right on, man.
I'm playing for my fans too. It's a blast.
All right. Well,
Yep.
I guess that's it. We'll wrap it up here. And do you have anything to add there, Steve?
Just is it obviously you found yourself in unfortunate circumstances during your music career. Is there anything more, or is there anything left on the table that you want to put out or achieve, music wise?
I'd love to have an album go really, really, really super big. I think I would love that before my death.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, ain't much time left either.
Reach for the stars, right, man?
Absolutely.
All right, Randy, it's been a pleasure. It's been a real honor having you on. I'm just gonna say some last words here, which are: remember, look to the stars, carry that torch of enlightenment, and strive to be a disciple of rock and roll and the Brotherhood of Orpheus. Peace, man.
That's pretty neat. You should do more of that.
Tonight you ride on black wings of death. On the hoof into the fire. Devil's right. We are worldwide and shall rule again. You found it time. Death is not the end time. Time again. Evil's way. Time again. Evil. Don't burn the witch. Out on the stolen ground. Down with the left. Evil's way. Time is on the way. Evil. truth be told, cold behind your back, cold in the dead of night. That's when we attack. Time and time again, evil always wins. Tonight we ride. Back with the gang. Put over to the flag. Death is